Good evening, ladies. Welcome back to Financial Feminism Thursday Live. And tonight we've got some unfinished business. Last Thursday, we started the ownership reset, and I fully intended to go through the entire thing. We did not, but I'm actually glad that we didn't because the conversation was too good, and some of those first five moves deserved much more than 2 minute mentions before we rush to the next thing. So tonight is officially ownership reset part two. And the timing, I think it couldn't be better because episode seven dropped today. Who listened to episode seven? Raise your hand. Okay, good. So we have seen some people in here that have listened to episode seven, so you should be all caught up. And this week's episode really pushes us into a question that sounds incredibly simple, but you until you have to actually answer it. One, what do you own? Not how much do you make? What's your job title? Not how much did your car cost? Not how much money comes through your checking account every single month. The question is, what do you own? And even more importantly, what are you building? What are you building that can continue to create value for you? And those are very important questions. So that's where we're going tonight. I hope you're ready. You've got your pen and a piece of paper to definitely take notes. You guys that were on last week know that we gave you a lot of different nuggets. So let's make sure that we have that all ready to go. But before we get serious, I need to know who I'm dealing with. Okay. Now, let's have a little ridiculous or a little icebreaker that's ridiculous. What's the one ridiculous thing that we refuse to throw away? I want you to drop it in the chat. What's that most useless thing that you own that you absolutely, refuse to get rid of? And I'm not talking about your entire junk drawer, just one thing. I mean, useless. So, no sentimental speech required, something that you look at occasionally and you think, why do I still have this? Mine, well, I'll wait and see what other people say because I probably have way too many things inside the junk drawer to even answer. And I think I'm going to teeter on the fact that it's a cell phone because I'm one of those people that will use the same cell phone until it absolutely won't work again. And I probably would still have a flip phone if people didn't make fun. So, but I know somebody's going to say a whole drawer full of cords that don't connect to anything that you currently own. Yeah, anybody have like RF modulators still? I'm probably dating myself, but I guarantee you there's some people that still do. You don't actually know what they belong to. You probably still have these cords for those of you there that are watching on this deal. You've had them and you probably hadn't used them since 2014, but you're terrified that 6 minutes after you throw one away, you're going to need it, right? Okay, so put yours inside the chat. And while you're typing, here's why I actually ask this question. We know exactly what we own when we're talking about our junk, right? We know exactly that. But if you ask about, you know what? Let's say you ask another woman about an old handbag. She knows, right? Shoes, she knows. A box in the garage, she knows. But if you ask, what financial assets do you own? Crickets, right? Now suddenly everybody, well, you know what? We need a minute. Hang on a second. Let me think about that, right? And that is exactly why we're having this conversation this week. So let's have, before we get started, a 5 minute recap of last week. Okay. Last week, we made it through the first five ownership reset moves. And I want to just quickly run through them quickly because part two only works if part A becomes real. Number one, know your I can leave number. This is the amount that requires you to keep your basic life functioning if your circumstances change. Like, for example, your housing, your food, your transportation, you have what else? You got insurance, you got medication, you've got utilities, you've got minimal, just your minimal debt, and maybe your essentials for your kids. The point was never everybody needs to leave something, okay? And the point of all of that is that you should know exactly what it costs to have options. That's important. And there's a different kind of confidence that comes from knowing, if life changes, I know my number. And that also applies to relationships. Now, that might rub someone wrong, but it does. It applies to jobs. It also applies to business partnerships. It applies to your living situation. It applies to just about anything, and that's important. Now, what I want you to start thinking about at this point is, first of all, women sometimes think financial independence begins when they become wealthy. And let that sit for a minute because it doesn't. It begins when you can make decisions without having absolutely no idea what those decisions will cost you. So your number gives you a decision dimension. Instead of saying, you know what, I could never, instead of saying that at this point, ultimately you can begin asking yourself, well, what would it take? Those are two completely different questions. Now, the second thing was build the $500 don't call anybody fund is what we called it. Not your retirement account, not your dream house, not your investment account. This is your first layer of, what, something happened and I don't immediately have to call somebody, whether it's a tire, could be a copay, could be a school expense or even a broken appliance, a surprise bill. $500 will not solve every single emergency. It won't. Its job is to begin just reducing the number of small emergencies that immediately become financial dependence. And I want women to stop being embarrassed about small beginnings. Okay. Sometimes you might just have $15 saved. Maybe you got $37 saved. Your next goal doesn't have to be $50,000. Let's get it to 50. Let's get it to $100 and then 250, then 500. We build financial strength the same way that we build physical strength. Repetition before we have these big impressive numbers. Now, the third move was find money that you already own. That includes your 401ks, your 403bs, your pensions, your HSAs, your saving accounts, your stock plans, all your old employer benefits, maybe accounts you opened up years ago. Money doesn't become less yours simply because you stop paying attention to it. And some of us need to stop looking for the next investment before we finish locating the assets that we already have. Now, that fourth thing is check your beneficiaries. This is key, very key. This one is not sexy. I will tell you, it was not fun, and it may be one of the most important things on your list. Why? We're talking about your retirement accounts. We're talking about life insurance, investment accounts, bank accounts where your beneficiary or payable on death designations are available. Check them because life changes. Relationships changes. You may be married the next day and separated and divorced the next. Marriage changes. Children grow up. People die. And your paperwork doesn't automatically rewrite itself because your life changed. Financial feminism is not only about acquiring money, it's also about having enough ownership over your financial life to know where your money goes next. Now, the fifth thing quickly is to do the 5-minute ownership inventory. This was our stopping point, and I asked you to stop measuring yourself only by income. And I said, hey, write down what you actually own. cash, savings, retirements, investments, your business equity, your intellectual property, real estate equity, anything else with genuine economic value. And don't inflate it either. Don't minimize it. Tell yourself the truth. And so before we move into part two, which one did you actually do is what I want to know. For those of that you guys that were on last week, and I know several of you watched the video, and I calculated my number. Did you calculate yours? Did you start or fund the $500 account? Did you find money? Did you check your beneficiaries? Did you do a complete inventory? And if you did none of them, you know what? I want you to put a eyes in double eyes, and it means I heard you, Tonika, but I did absolutely nothing. Double eyes there. Okay. So no shame, but I'm coming back for you tonight. I can tell you that. Now, our part two is going to begin right now. Again, last week we started with what do I have? Tonight, we're moving into what am I going to do with what I have? And this is where ownership stops being an idea. Number 6 is own your numbers. There are 6 numbers that I want every woman eventually to know. You don't have to post them, you don't have to tell us, but you should definitely know them. Very important. So make sure you write this down. Your 6 number ownership snapshot is 1, your monthly take home income. So that's what actually hits your accounts, not your salary before your taxes, not what somebody says you make, what reaches you, what reaches your bank account. Okay. Then, number 2, I want you to write down your essential monthly number. What does it cost to cover the essentials? And this is closely connected to your I can leave number. Then the third number is your liquid cash. How much money could you assess relatively quickly without borrowing? Check your checking, your savings, your appropriate cash reserves. And then the fourth thing is your total debt, not just the credit card you're mad about, all of it. Knowing the number doesn't make it worse, it simply makes it measurable. It's a starting point. Then the fifth thing is your invested slash retirement money, however, whatever you have for your future. What is currently invested for your future for you? And that number may be 0. It can be $300. It could be 30,000. It could be 300,000. We're not comparing numbers tonight. We're establishing our coordinates. And then the last one, the sixth one, what you own minus what you owe. Now, that number is not your worth as a human being. It is not a financial measurement whatsoever. These are completely different things. Now, let me ask you, which of those 6 numbers would be hardest for you to tell me right now without looking it up? Would it be your income, your expenses, your debt, your investments, your net worth? Put the word in the chat. What would be the hardest for you to tell me right now without looking it up? Okay, good. Okay, put the word in the chat. So I think worth probably might make a lot of women pause. And here's why. We're trained to answer, hey, what do you do? And we're trained to know, what do you make? But very few people ever ask us, what are you accumulating? And that difference matters because women can earn, let's just say, women could earn $150,000 a year and spend $155,000. Another woman can earn 70,000 and consistently acquire assets. So income tells me something. It doesn't tell me the entire financial story. Now, let's make this fun. I'm going to name a rung, okay? And I want you to put the emoji closest to where you believe you are today, not where you want people to think you are, where you are today. Income. Okay. And put a money bag there. Your most financial power currently comes from your labor. I want you to put a money bag emoji. Right. Savings. Put a little pig there if your savings consistently, if you're constantly keeping some of what you earn and you're saving. Put a little pig like a piggy bank in there. Okay. Investments. Just put like a chart, an investment chart. If some of your money is working in markets or other investments, then I want you to put a house if you have assets. You own assets with a value, maybe meaningful, that you can create beyond just your direct labor. Okay. Then I want you to give me a tree emoji. If you're intentionally building and protecting and transferring or teaching ownership beyond your own self, drop yours in the chat. And listen carefully. This is not a ladder. It's not a caste system. Being money bags doesn't make you less successful than somebody that's, got a tree. The point is not to feel bad about where you are. This is where you are. You're rung in the tree. The point of this is to stop pretending that you're standing somewhere you're not, because you can't climb effectively from an imaginary starting point. And sometimes we have women trying so hard to discuss generational wealth when they don't even yet have $300 saved for an emergency. That's okay. But the next move probably isn't a trust fund. The next move may be that $500 fund. Right move, right wrong. That's financial maturity. Now, when we talked today in episode 7, it asked, what do you actually own? But here's another question underneath it. How much of your financial life stops if you stop working? Sit with that one. If you don't clock in tomorrow, what continues? Does your interest continue accumulating? Do your investments remain invested? Does a business continue selling? Does intellectual property continue creating opportunities? Does rental income continue? Does a book continue selling? Does a licensing agreement continue? Does anything continue creating value? Or does virtually every single thing stop? Now, that's not an accusation, it's information. Second question I want to ask, if your paycheck just stopped tomorrow completely, what would still belong to you? And I don't mean your couch. What financial value remains, period? For me, this question hits a lot bigger than money. We got to really think about that. I've built businesses and brands and books and content and systems and intellectual property, relationships, expertise, and things that exist beyond one paycheck. But here's what I also believe: having those things doesn't mean that you're finished. You got to keep asking yourself, is what I own actually becoming more valuable? Is it protected? Is it producing? And here's a good one. Is it transferable? Or is it dependent entirely on me? Let that sit for a minute. Ownership in itself, it has levels to it. And one very important distinction that I want everybody to understand is, I want to sharpen something from our conversation this week. Not every asset needs to send you a check every month to just qualify as valuable. because you can have a diversified retirement investment and that may be growing without generating spendable monthly income. A house may be building you equity. Intellectual property may appreciate in commercial value. A business may reinvest profits. So the better question isn't only does this pay me every month? You have to ask yourself, what economic job is this asset doing for me? Is it producing income? Is it appreciating? Is it protecting capital or creating leverage, creating intellectual property, or opening commercial opportunities? Make your assets explain their job. That's ownership thinking. Now, another question I want to ask: what's the one thing that you've built, that you've owned, that you've earned, that you've created, that you've learned or acquired that you are genuinely proud of? You can call it your own. I mean, it can be small. And, I'll give some answers because I know sometimes we're thinking really, really narrow minded a lot of times. It may be a professional certification. It can be a domain name. It can be a book manuscript or a business or recipe collection that could become intellectual property. Could be a course. It could be a portfolio. It could even be a YouTube library, right? A customer list, maybe that your business legitimately owns and has permission to contact. Could be big. It could be a patent. It could be a trademark. It could be a piece of land, an investment account, a professional skill, a repeatable business process or brand, a body of research or credential, a network. Some of these are financial assets. Some of them are economic capabilities that can become assets, and knowing the difference matters. Okay, now I need everybody here that's listening to this video, I need everybody to be honest. Who has an ownership idea sitting in her notes app that's been there so long that the idea is probably offended? A business idea or a book. We do that as women, a course, a website, a consulting offer, something. Drop a little notepad emoji in the chat if you have that. I'm telling you, we're really, really great at doing that, right? And why is it still in our notes app? We don't have time. We don't have money. We're scared. We don't know where to begin. We're waiting to be perfect. What? Somebody talked you out of it? Maybe you keep researching it instead of launching it. Put the reason in the chat, because sometimes women don't have an idea problem. We have a permission problem. We're waiting for somebody to say, you know what, that's a good idea. Or we're waiting for a spouse to understand it. Or we're waiting for our friends and family to validate it. Or waiting till our kids need less and they're out of the house. Or you're waiting for someone else to be ambitious with us. And that brings me to something really, really important. You can love someone deeply and still recognize their appetite for growth doesn't have to determine yours. Not every relationship problem is abuse. Sometimes the tension is ambition. One person wants to build, one person is perfectly comfortable maintaining. One person wants to learn about investing, the other person just really doesn't care. One person sees possibility, the other one sees it's just unnecessary risk. That doesn't automatically make either person evil, but women need to know you are still responsible for developing your own financial capability. You don't have to shrink your future to keep somebody else comfortable with the present. So I want you to finish this sentence, and you can do it privately or in the chat. I would probably be further ahead financially if I had stopped waiting for blank. Don't put somebody's government name in the chat. Quietly or in the chat. Okay. But think about it. Approval, confidence, more income, a partner, spouse, the perfect time, the kids to get older, or another degree, or somebody to teach you. We got all of those. Fear, that we might disappear or disappoint, because sometimes the ownership reset is simply realizing nobody is coming to grant you permission to become the woman that you're capable of being and becoming. Now, this is simple. We got one number, and as we wrap up here, we got one decision, we got one deadline. Okay, write that down. One number, one decision, and one deadline. Don't leave tonight with 12 financial goals. Please don't. Pick one number, make one decision, and give it one deadline. That's what we're doing today. For example, if your number is $500 emergency fund, just the buffer, your decision is automatically transfer $50 from every single paycheck. Deadline, fully funded by December 31st. Another, $6,000 credit card balance. That's our number. Decision, stop new charges and make a defined additional payment every paycheck. Deadline, reach my target balance by. Another number, zero, currently invested outside of retirement. Decision, learn the appropriate account options and begin with an amount I can sustain. Deadline, complete my research and take my first step by. It's not sexy, but very effective. So I want you to type this number in. My number, blank, my decision, blank, my deadline. And you don't have to give us your number inside of the community in the chat. You don't have to give us the actual dollar amount if that's private. But what you can write is my number, emergency fund, my decision, automatic transfer, my deadline, September 30th. And that's good enough. So type that in the chat so that way it becomes live. Okay. I'll give you some time. Type that in the chat and make sure that you really, really put that down because it's your first action step. You attach to it now at this point emotionally and logically when you write it down and read it. Now, we're getting into something financial feminism absolutely has to talk about because you can have a budget, you can have savings, you can have a financial plan, and then somebody calls you, and suddenly the budget has left the building. So, tonight, what we're doing is we're practicing sentences, not explanations, not 7-paragraph apologies, sentences. Boundary number one, that's not in my budget right now. Full stop. You do not have to follow with, but I get paid next Thursday and maybe after I pay this bill. No, that is not in my budget right now. That's boundary number one. Number two, I can't lend that amount. Not, let me see what I can move around. Not, I know you really need it. You can care and still say, I can't lend that amount. Boundary number three, I'm not making that financial decision today. This is a wonderful decision and a wonderful sentence. Car dealership, sales call, family pressure, business opportunity, anything where somebody benefits from you making the decision before you've had time to think. I'm not making that financial decision today. Write that down. Boundary number 4. I need to review the numbers first. Now, this may be one of the most financially mature sentences available to you. You take the emotion out and you bring the math in. Boundary number 5. I love you, but I can't keep financing this. Ooh, we're going to leave that one right there because some women are somebody else's emergency fund every month and then wondering why their own emergency fund is empty. Helping people is not the problem. Financial self-erasure is. Say it without apologizing. I'm going to give you the situation. You give me the boundary. Situation number 1. Your grown relative wants $400 and you genuinely cannot afford to lose $400. What do you say? That's right. I can't lend that amount. Situation number 2. Somebody wants you to join this expensive trip and everybody's pressuring you. Come on, you're my girl. We got to be there. You got to be there. Come on, you do everything else. What's your answer? You're right. That's not in my budget right now. Here's another one. Someone wants you to sign a financing agreement tonight. I'm not making that financial decision today. I need to review the numbers first. See, you don't need a fight. You don't need a sentence. Now, let's think about our move number 9. Never build alone. Ownership doesn't mean isolation. And this is important because sometimes independence gets confused with I don't need anybody. That's not wealth, and that's exhaustion. Strong ownership includes knowing who belongs on your financial support map and who does not. So ask yourself, who is my financial educator? Who is my CPA or tax professional when needed? Who's my attorney when legal expertise is needed? Who's my insurance professional? Who's my business mentor? Who's my accountability person? Who's my financially responsible friend? Who's my estate planning resource? Who's my career advocate? Who's my investment professional if it's appropriate for my situation? You may not need every one of these today, but stop trying to become an expert in everything alone. There's a huge difference between dependence and professional support. Dependence says, you know what, handle my financial life because I don't understand it. Support says, I understand enough to ask good questions, evaluate the advice, and make informed decisions. That's the goal. So, who is the one person on your financial support map right now? And what's the one role that's completely empty? We went over a few. Maybe you got a CPA, but nobody you can actually talk to about investing. Maybe you have financially successful friends, but no estate plan. You may have even built a business, but you don't really have anyone helping you understand the numbers or identifying the gaps. Something else we really need to talk about. Now, here's part of the problem. Here's the part that ownership people don't talk about enough. Sometimes ownership changes your relationships. When you become more financially intentional, everyone around you doesn't automatically celebrate it. Why? Well, think about it. Your boundaries may change, your conversations may change, your tolerance for chaos may change, your tolerance for everyone else not wanting to be on the same level may change, your goals may change. And somebody may just say, you know what, you think you're better than everybody else now. No, maybe you finally stop volunteering to stay financially stuck so everyone around you could remain comfortable. There's a difference. And I especially want to say this to the women whose partner doesn't necessarily mistreat her, but has absolutely no ambition to build anything, because that's really complicated. Sometimes two people simply develop very different relationships with growth. And you have to decide, what am I responsible for building, even if another adult chooses not to build with me? You can't force ambition into somebody. And you can't nag somebody into financial maturity, but you can decide what you're willing to learn, save, build, and protect and own. And if there's coercion, if there's control or intimidation or abuse or threats or restrictions around access to money, that's a whole different and more serious situation. And that deserves appropriate professional support. But our core point tonight is your financial development does not require another person's enthusiasm. And we'll get into that much later as well. Now, this one might be a little bit interesting. Can two people have a healthy relationship if they have completely different levels of financial ambition? What do you think? Yes, no, depends? Put it in the chat. So, my answer really depends on whether or not, or whether the difference can coexist with respect and responsibility and shared agreements. So, two people don't have to want the same identical careers. They don't have to earn identical amounts. They don't have to be entrepreneurs together. But if one person's choices continually sabotages the other's financial stability, there's no longer simply a difference ambition. That's a household problem. And avoiding the conversation doesn't fix it. So, this is where we finish what we didn't finish last week. You've got 7 days, not 7 months. You've got 7 days until the next podcast drops. And it's not when I get some extra money. You got 7 days. And I want you to choose one specific ownership action, whether it's find an old retirement account, check every beneficiary, calculate your I can leave number, open the account for your first emergency buffer, complete your ownership inventory. Maybe it's calculate your net worth or research one ownership idea. Maybe it's register the domain for the idea you've been sitting on. Put an actual date on the project sitting on your notes app. Review one insurance policy. Schedule an appointment with the appropriate professional, financial or legal appointment, whatever it is. Identify one asset that you want to acquire. Create your financial support map, not 10, 1. And so your declaration is 7-day declaration, we'll call it. I want you to drop this in the chat, whether you're watching inside of the community, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on Zoom, whether you're watching on social media. I want you to ask and make it specific enough that next Thursday I can ask, did you do it? I want you to write this down. Within 7 days, I will. So, for example, Mine will say something like, within 7 days, I will research my retirement account with my old employer. Okay. Because I don't want financial feminism to become Thursday night. We get all excited. Friday, we remember something somebody said. Here comes Saturday, life happens. Sunday, we're busy. We got church. We got all of these things. Monday, we go back to work. And by next Thursday, nothing happened. No, we're building evidence. Every week, I want you to be able to point to something and say, my financial life is different because I did that. One thing. Okay. Now, we're going to bring our episode from today, episode 7, and the ownership reset together. Then I want you to finish this sentence. 1 year from today, I want to own blank. Put it in the chat. I don't want you to overthink it. Maybe it's my home, my business, my time, 10 shares of something, fully funded emergency reserve, your intellectual property, a piece of land, a book, a profitable brand, maybe a debt-free car, could be a portfolio. Okay? It could be a percentage of a company, stronger retirement account, a decision you've been afraid to make, whether it's whatever it is. 1 year from today, I want to own. And I want you to put that in the chat. Got a couple things. And start asking yourself, why? Why did I pick that? What would owning that change for you? What's the first move? Those are some good ones. What can interfere with some of those things that you've written down? What's the one thing that you can do within these 7 days? Women, that I'm telling you right now, just those things alone, that can create a lot of conversation and opening up doors that you didn't even expect. So I'll say 1 year from today, I want to own more of the things that produce options. And that's one of the ways actually that I think about wealth, not just dollars, but options. The option to walk away, the option to invest, the option to help, the option to travel, the option to rest, or the option to say no, or the option to take a calculated risk or to build something new, to survive a bad month without my whole life collapsing. Money is powerful, but what I'm really interested in is, what does your money allow you to choose? And see, that's where things get interesting. Asset or just expense? All right, we're going to finish up with the game and I'm going to name something. You're going to tell me if it's an asset or an expense, or it depends. Okay, you ready? All right, let's get this thing started. A house depends. Right? You might have substantial equity and appreciation, but also costs money to maintain. A car, yeah, usually a depreciating asset. But context matters. Again, if the vehicle supports your income generation, it might have business utility as well. Okay, designer handbag. All right, some collectible pieces can appreciate in value, but I bought a purse is not automatically an investment strategy. And listen, I love a great bag, you know. Um, the community is literally called Own the Purse, right? Okay. And so we can like things and tell the truth about what they are, right? How about a college degree? I know this is a very interesting one. It's not a financial asset in the traditional accounting sense, but education can definitely increase your earning capacity and economic options. And that's why precision really matters. A business, correct. Well, that can potentially be an asset, but merely registering an LLC doesn't create valuable business. A business becomes meaningful when it has things like customers and revenues and contracts and margins and transferable economic value. How about how about a book? It's a consumer, it's a product, right? It's but the content and intellectual property, that's a potential asset. And so now we're thinking differently. How about your social media following? It's not something you fully own if it lives entirely on somebody else's platform, which is exactly why businesses need own channels, such as their own websites, their own communities, their own permission based email lists, their own relationships. So don't build your entire house on rented digital land. Okay. So those are certain things that we can think about. Obviously, we have lots of things that we can really consider, but we don't have all day. And I just again wanted you to start thinking and seeing things just a little bit differently. You know, do you have money that no one else has to give you permission access? Do you know what assets are yours if you die? Are you investing consistently? These are things that we really have to start asking ourselves. Do you have at least one financial boundary you can say without apologizing? Okay. So now you know where the work is. Tonight's big idea, and I want you to remember this: income can make life comfortable, ownership makes life less fragile. And this is not about becoming obsessed with acquiring things. We're talking about financial resilience, we're talking about agency, leverage, choices, and eventually legacy, right? And the goal is not simply about making more money. The better question is, what will I do with the money that I make so that more of my financial life eventually belongs to me? That's the reset. So, this week's challenge before next Thursday is you take a sheet of paper or open it on your notes app. You make those two columns. Column one, things that pay me. That's your salary. That's your business income. That's your freelance income, your interest, your royalty, your rental income, whatever is true for you, things that pay me. Column two, things I own that I can create or create future value with. Like, let's think about this: your investments and your equity, your income producing assets, your intellectual property, any kind of legitimate assets or capabilities that you're developing. Don't exaggerate the list, just and don't insult the list. Don't, because this is not, we're not judging you here. Just look at it and then ask yourself, which column am I intentionally growing? Now, I want you to download the ownership ladder assessment and take that. Use it to identify where you are and see where you're actually standing and what's your next move. And remember, your assignment is not to jump 6 runs overnight. Your assignment is just to identify my rung, my next move, my deadline. And if you haven't listened to episode 7 that dropped today, listen to it after tonight's conversation, because I think you'll hear it differently now. And send it to one woman. That's all I ask. Send it to one woman who works incredibly hard but has never really been challenged to ask, now, what am I building with all this work? Not how much am I making, but what am I building? That question can change a life. If you're watching this conversation outside of the financial feminism community, come inside. This is where we actually work through these conversations together. We're not building a room where women just show up once a week, they hear something inspirational, and then go back to the same exact financial patterns. We're building a community here, a community of women who do something with what they learn. So learn it, question it, apply it, own it. And ladies, before we go, give me your final sentence one more time. 1 year from today, I want to own blank. Put it somewhere you can see it. And underneath it, what am I doing in the next 7 days that makes that statement more likely to become true? Because a year from now is going to arrive either way. And the question is whether we arrive with it exactly where we are tonight, or whether we can point backward and see dozens of small ownership decisions that changed our position. You don't need to become wealthy by next Thursday, and you don't need every answer tonight. You don't even need anyone's permission, but you do need a move. One number, one decision, and one deadline. That's enough to start. And if right now all you own is a Netflix subscription and three Stanley Cups and some very strong opinions, that's fine. We're starting there. But next year, I expect you to have a better answer. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having the kind of money conversations women should be having all along and having every day. So, again, go listen to episode 7. Download your ownership ladder assessment, make your 7-day move, and I'll see you right back here in the community next Thursday. So keep climbing and own something.